Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Frank and Lizzie Show. Today is our first live episode here from National Harbor, Maryland at SAWC Spring 2023. Today, it's going to be a slightly different format. So typically, Frank and I are interviewing our guests, but today, Frank will be my guest. He will be in the hot seat. So we also will have a guest, Jonathan Schopp, who is the Senior Director of Marketing for the Pressure Injury Management for Molnlycke Healthcare. Today, we're going to discuss some very common issues in the wound care space and a new solution. So first, let me welcome my guests.
So first of all, thank you. I'm glad to be here, Jonathan. Love you. And I don't know when you've taken it easy on me, but I hope you do this time.
Oh, you're going to be in the hot seat, bud. Don't worry about that.
But yes, I just wanted to take a second to thank both Liz and Frank for the invite for me and for Mölnlycke to participate in this. We are super excited about our new technology and what it's going to mean for the quality of life for the patients that we're all seeking to help.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here. So Frank, now I get to interview you. So tell me, I know you do a lot of work in the VLU space and with lymphedema. So tell me about what are some of your biggest challenges that you see with those patients or in your outpatient setting?
So that's a great question. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very highly complex patient population because we have to deal with the wounds, but we also leave out the financial, the social, the mental, and also logistics. These patients are having to come to our clinics more often because of drainage. Drainage keeps them from going out. So we're facing a lot of social components. They're very complicated, and so we have to do a better job.
I did outpatient for 2 years, and I had the same issues 14 years ago that you're talking about now. So I hear that you have something to address these common issues.
So yes, and we're going to talk about it today, and I'm so excited because Mölnlycke came and asked for my opinion, and I will share that. I know.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
I know, so I made a bid.
So there's a first.
There's a first. But I won't share the opinion until you come to the talk tomorrow. But we brought Jonathan in because I want Jonathan to describe what this product has done to change the life of the patients we saw.
Sure. So thank you for that. So, what we're talking about today is actually a non-bordered foam dressing, and it's new and innovative, and it's called Mepilex Up. And it's very different than other non-border foam dressings. All of you have a sample. You can actually take a look. But when you look at this dressing, it's a non-border foam dressing, which is very different than others on the market. First, if you look, the profile of it is extremely thin, but don't let the thinness of it fool you. It's a compressed foam, but if you notice, there's a proprietary dimple pattern across the entire surface of the dressing, and there's a specific reason for that. What we found through our research is that most non-bordered foam dressings are underutilized. And what I mean by that is the entire surface of most dressings don't end up being used for the benefit of the patient. Because of the forces of gravity, many dressings, only the bottom third will absorb exudate. And then when you see strike-through drainage, most of that is because those dressings don't have the ability to counteract the forces of gravity. So what these dimples do, and you can see on the screen, is they help move exudate across the entire surface area of the dressing. So what that can lead to is longer wear times, fewer dressing changes, and ultimately a better quality of life for our patients. What I'd love to do is show you a quick little video. It's a 7-second loop.
Okay.
And if you look at the video that we're about to play, you will notice that it's a time-lapse video. And at the top of it, you will see there's 7 days worth of time. And you will notice as it goes through the days, after the first day of utilization, you will see that the competitive dressing is already starting to have strike-through drainage through the bottom portion of the dressing. But even after 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and up to 7 days, many times the Mepilex Up dressing can continue to handle that exudate, and you can see how it's spreading in all directions, even against the forces of gravity.
Wow.
I will vouch for what he's saying. I've seen it. So.
Well, it's very funny. I was at MPIAP and I'm walking past the Mölnlycke booth and I saw Frank's face on a video and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? I wanted to comment about something you said about this 7-day dressing. So a lot of my dressings say, oh yeah, you can wear it for up to 7 days. But the problem is, like, patients with a large amount of Exudate can't go 7 days. So Frank, I wanted to ask you, I know you've utilized this and that's why you got to be up on the screen at MPIAP, but I wanted to ask, in your experience with utilizing this product, did you go 7 days? I mean, most of my VLU patients came in 3 times a week for compression wraps and all that, or we had to try to find home health. So tell me about your experience.
So I wanted to make sure that the whole facility was able to get their opinion on it. And so when we first started out, when you look at the patient population, they were coming in 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And we, what Jonathan was saying is a thin product, so people start thinking thicker is better and more, not necessarily. And so this product kind of changed that. And when you look at all the case studies, we started going to once a week. So it was able, like Jonathan said. But the other interesting thing is every time we removed it, we were afraid, because when you have drainage, you have maceration. And I'm going to tell you, it didn't happen.
Wow.
And so the cases that we had, the healthy peri-wound tissue was better. And if you go to the presentation tomorrow, I have pictures to show you. But it protected the skin, it removed the exudate from the wound bed, and it did more. Now, Jonathan has asked me not to go rogue on it, but later on, I'm going to tell you, it's helping wounds because it has the ability to help the drainage move in the direction where I want it to. And that, I'm going to leave it a secret.
And Liz, just to add a little bit more to that, every patient is different. If you've seen one patient, you've seen one patient.
Yeah.
So will it work for 7 days on every single patient? Well, there's so many factors that come into some of these complicated cases. But what we do believe and what we are seeing is that you will get longer wear time with this through better exudate management.
Right. And clinically, even when we went a little more and we had strike-through drainage, which sometimes it happens, these patients sleep sitting up pretty much, the skin was protected. Even though we had strike-through drainage, I didn't get maceration on the patients that we saw.
Wow.
So.
And I'll tell you, speaking of strike-through drainage, just to share a quick little story, I live in Louisiana. That's probably why you hear the accent. But the other night I was having dinner with my wife and my 3 kids at a local restaurant. And one of my neighbors has been suffering from VLUs for the past multiple months. And we really don't see the guy a whole lot. He pretty much stays into his home, and he's got so much leakage and drainage that his garments get soiled, and he really confines himself to the home. Well, the wound care clinic that he goes to started treating him with Mepilex Up about a month ago. And lo and behold, we were in the restaurant, and that was the first time I actually saw him out in public with his family enjoying a meal. So it feels good knowing that we played a small part in getting him out of the house and getting him living again. So it was pretty cool.
And we had a similar story where a patient he was angry. And you may not want to go into that room because it's not going to be a good conversation. And the nurses selected Mepilex Up, VLU for years, in a wheelchair. And I'm going to tell you, the next time he came in, he was smiling, he was happy. And the nurses actually went in there, and the patient literally said, I now have a dressing that has helped me. I'm not going through the stores and all that with leakage going through.
Yeah.
And so, it does have a play. And until you use it, you'll never know.
That's great. Yeah, I'm going to read a little excerpt from the brochure. It says here that 64% of patients experience problems with leakage or strike through, or whatever we want to call it. And this is a quote from a patient, a venous leg ulcer patient. It says, every time I bend my knee or I walk any distance, so much liquid falls out. And I think we've talked about isolation, and you've kind of hit on those key points, why it's so important for us to treat that entire patient. But the other piece with my administrator hat on that I'm thinking is, if we're decreasing the amount of visits that we have for this patient, that we're able to save supplies, get to see new patients. I know we have a waiting list at our wound care center, get new patients in, get them healed and get them out. It's really the goal is to not see them every 3 times a week if possible. And I know in my area, we have no home health agencies that are well trained in how to deliver appropriate compression therapy. And so it's really challenging for patients that don't have transportation or can't leave the house. I mean, how many times I've seen patients come with trash bags around their legs and buckets underneath, newspapers. I mean, I'm sure we could create a list, right? So I do want to get into a little bit of the logistics of this. So thin dressings, it's pulling, the drainage out. Do I need a secondary dressing?
So I can answer that, but I'd rather the clinician that's actually been using this with his own
Frank
patients.
to talk more?
Yeah.
No.
Unfortunately, probably so. But Frank, seriously, what was your experience with you having to use a secondary dressing or not?
So, you're always skeptical about things when you need a product. But I found out a couple things. Number one, under compression, you don't want any borders or any, secondary dressing. And this has a tackiness to it that is stuck in place. Also, when you remove the dressing, you're not worrying about peeling skin. And that's a big problem. The other problem that this didn't create is, you see the other border foams or non-border that are thicker. Thick is not always better under compression, because when we take the compression off, now you have damaged skin around where that indentation is.
Yeah, you get an indent. Yeah, we see this all the time with compression patients.
Right, and it still happens with this. You still get indentation, but it's not as severe. So it's really protecting the skin. And the other thing, the dimples is kind of great,
Dimples are not great for me personally, but I'm glad they are for the dressing.
But, under compression, the dimple is doing something else too. Again, this is just look at the dressing, look at the patients, come see my case studies tomorrow, and you'll see the difference. So.
But I'll tell you, Liz, I'm glad you shared that stat of 65%, because when we constantly are innovating new technology, we always are keeping the patient at the forefront of our mind. We're a very patient-centric company, and we're very clear with our mission. We want to free patients, caregivers, and healthcare facilities from the burden of wounds. And that can mean many different things for many different people. But from an outcomes perspective, we're seeing fantastic outcomes utilizing this. And it's so exciting to see the quality of life changes that we're seeing with these patients.
That's great.
Now, I have to add something. This is great.
Now I'm worried where this might go.
No. So Jonathan didn't know which facility was using Mepilex Up. And when the global Randy Schwartz came to me, I didn't realize that we were the only facility in the whole world to have this dressing. And so when he was told that somebody's using it, I'm going to let you tell the rest of the story.
Well, I live in Louisiana, so I was thinking that I didn't really know where the first site was, because this was very early on in the game. And it just so happened that only an hour and a half from where I live in Louisiana was the clinic that was actually utilizing it.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Now, since then, we've had multiple other facilities trialing it with great results, but I just thought it was a very small world that just right down the road was where the initial trial site was.
Yeah, Natchitoches.
How serendipitous.
I tell you.
Well, listen, I think, obviously this has piqued my interest. It seems to solve a lot of my logistical and patient-centric issues that I deal with in our outpatient population. So is this on market? Can we order it? How do we get it?
Sure. So we launched the product about a month ago.
Okay.
And it comes in 4 different sizes. You can see that it comes in a 4x4. It comes in a 4x8.
Okay.
It comes in a 6x6 and an 8x8.
Great.
And the size does matter. So you want to make sure. So you want to make sure that you're using a dressing that is for the appropriate size of the wound.
Okay.
A lot of these patients are so problematic that you want to have a dressing with enough real estate and surface area to really combat the effects that they're having. But yes, it is available for order as you speak right now through all major distributors.
So if I can clarify that statement, bigger is not always better?
No, actually.
You want to right size it.
Thicker is not always better, but when you're looking at wounds, we were taught that you want a wound dressing to extend about 1 or 2 inches around from the perimeter. So if you put this dressing small enough, it's not going to do a good job. But we started putting the dressing bigger than the wound because I think it does something else to the area. And lo and behold, it works. So
Okay.
I like to go a little bigger.
So extend slightly beyond to the peri-wound to just help with that.
Exactly.
Oh, great. Okay. So that's helpful to know because I know some nurses, if it drains a lot, they pick the biggest dressing, even if the wound is small, because they want to catch all the drainage. But then the drainage is like on the peri-wound everywhere. So that's
But I
really
highly
helpful.
encourage you guys to come stop by booth 413.
413.
So we're going to be doing fluid demonstrations so you can
Okay.
see the handling of the dressing, but we're
Great.
also doing a hands-on workshop today as well.
Oh,
So people can get, the feel and touch and see exactly how this moves fluid throughout the entire surface of the dressing.
Right.
Right. And if you come by the booth, I'll probably stop by also. And
Absolutely.
one of the nurses that trial the product will be there too. So I'll be able to show you, Liz.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So.
All right. Well, any other comments before we wrap up?
No, again, thinner product, different. Moisture transfer vapor rate plays a big role into this.
Oh.
Yeah, big word there, MTVR.
Wow,
Serendipitous
you're growing up.
MTVR.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, check it out. Come ask questions. Come to the lecture tomorrow because we'll have a lot of case studies.
Great.
So.
But I just want to thank everybody involved that
Yep.
has gotten us to this point because this was not done in isolation. When we continue to innovate, we lean on clinicians just like the two of you. We lean on feedback from our patients and our clinicians and our facilities to figure out what do we need to solve for and then how do we go about solving it. And this is a great example that, when technology and industry really come together, great outcomes can happen. So we look forward to impacting many, many lives and through this wonderful technology.
Great.
Well, I want to thank Molnlycke Healthcare for coming up with a product that can help us. I do want to thank Lizzie for taking it easy on me this time. She's
She
not
was
like
pretty
that.
easy on you today,
She's crazy on me. And also, I do want to thank HMP for having us here. This is a great stage, great platform. This is the first live. You are now going into the books. That first live show, Mölnlycke, Jonathan Schopp was in the books. So
Excellent.
anyway, thank you.
All
And
right.
thank you again for having us.
Well, thank you everybody for watching this episode. We really appreciate your time today. Be sure to stop by booth 413 to check out the new Mepilex Up.
And if you're watching this recording, we'll have a site that you can go and get more information. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.